do it, there are 3 ways to do this. There are variations, like some of them are harder for different situations depending on your slide, some of them are quite easy. One of them that was launched 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, was you don't even need to edit the HTML on your slide. You can just do it by email via your Google Plus profile. So it's getting easier and easier. And the idea is that you set up the annotation that you have authored this bit of content, and then you link that to your Google Plus profile. You wait for a Google bot to come along and crawl, and magic happens. The image I have here is in the rich snippet testing tool, which is where you can go and test your authorship markup. And if everything goes well, it will tell you there's a section that says author, and it extracts the right Google Plus profile, and it tells you who the author name is, and says it's verified. That means everything is working correctly. Okay? The one thing is that we've seen, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, is that if you're a publisher, don't use authorship. There's another way to do it. There's something else that you can do, and I'll talk about that in a second. Authorship is about authors. I know this sounds silly, but it is about the individual who wrote that content. Okay? That's kind of what authorship is for. I'll talk about publishers in a second. So, some of the policies for authorship. Google Plus photo, your profile photo, it needs to be your face, recognizable, high quality. Because it's really about you. It needs to be personally identifiable that it is really you. The markup needs to be visible. So don't put the authorship, like if you do the link, the rel equals author link on your HTML, don't hide it like with CSS or something. One thing we don't support right now is multiple authors. We only show an author if there's only one on the page. That's something the team is aware of. And again, what I said earlier, link to the author's profile, not the publisher. One thing that we have is the team has gone through lots of implementations and lots of problems that we've seen from webmasters. So if you search for author information not appearing, it's a Help Center article that we have. It's a great checklist to make sure that, to go through if you see issues with your implementation. So the second one is the extension of this is plus pages for publishers. This is what I say when I say link authors to the authors page. And publishers, there's something called rel equals publisher, which is a new thing that we've released. And it's still early days for it. So the way you do this is just like you have a link that you says rel equals author to your profile, you have a rel equals publisher to the publisher's plus page. Okay? And this can be a link, like a link element in the head of the page, the head tag of the page, or it can be like an anchor, just a standard link with a rel equals publisher attribute. What this does is that it makes you eligible for something like this. If you search for TechCrunch, I tried to do it just now before this, it didn't trigger, but I managed to trigger it when I was doing the slides, so lucky times. You get on the right-hand side, we're experimenting with things we can try on the right-hand side. And the idea here is that if you're a publisher and people are searching for you, depending on the query, depending on how you're using the plus page, it might be very useful for us to make your content, to link our searchers with your content more directly. And this is what you see here. So this is for TechCrunch. It links to the plus page for TechCrunch, and it also says the latest posts and things like that. Okay. There's this also can be verified in the rich snippet testing tool. So if you have that markup correct, if you set it up correctly, you can go in and test it, and it will tell you, verified or not. If you look for this, if you just look for rel equals publisher, there's a Help Center article we have. There are actually a couple of them. So if you want, I can send you the links later. I can post them on my Google Plus, or if you can't find them. Any questions so far? Great. Next up, rich snippets. Yeah. Which is rich snippets? I've had this question before. Come on. Okay. Cool. So it's actually rich snippets. I think are a bit misunderstood by webmasters. So this is the summary. This is what rich snippets are. They're snippets. They're supposed to be short descriptions of the content of the page. Okay? Very simple. We give you more control over them, just like in the description, you have control over that, but they're supposed to summarize the topic of the page. Once you understand this, very simple concept, everything else you'll see that I'm about to explain about the implementation and about the policies will fall into place. We're summarizing the topic of the page. So, sadly, some webmasters actually get the implementation wrong. Okay, we've seen that. The team has gone through the top issues that we've seen, like reasons why we don't show the algorithms will reject the rich snippets that people have suggested, and they've written an article titled "Rich Snippets Not Appearing." Okay, it's in the Help Center. Search for that and go through it. And you'll see that some of them are like you're using the wrong attribute for the markup and things like that, and we've seen those like votes or counts. I get them wrong all the time. Help Center tells you don't use votes, use counts, or vice versa. I can't remember. The other thing is that sometimes the markup is incomplete. So depending on the rich snippet markup, there are different tags that are required. There are different attributes that are required. And what we see is that sometimes the webmaster is trying to implement this, but they miss out one or two. Okay? And because we don't have enough information, we will reject that. And again, the rich snippet testing tool will actually help you in this. It would, if you put in your markup, it will say something like, required attribute missing or something like that. Okay? It depends again on what the thing. The other thing is that sometimes some rich snippets support nesting, or depending on how you nest the markup. So again, how the code is actually on the page, it's done incorrectly. So again, this will show up in the testing tool. If not, post on the forums, and someone will help you with that. Okay. And the other thing is that some webmasters expect rich snippets to appear for pages that are not crawled. That's not going to happen. We need to go crawl it. Googlebot needs to visit the page, see that you have rich snippets. There's process it, figure it out, and then it will. If everything is good, we'll start showing that in the search results. Okay. Any questions so far? Let's do the fun one. Policies. We've seen lots of fun examples of how our policies are being violated. The most important one is visible markup. Remember, you are displaying a summary, it's a rich summary of the topic of the page. So it should be visible to what the user sees. Okay? It should be user visible. We've seen lots of markup that is like hidden with CSS or something. That won't work. Okay? And again, this is like what we said for authorship. It needs to be visible. The other thing is that this is the second point that I keep hammering at, is that it needs to be relevant to the page topic. You're summarizing the topic. So if there aren't any reviews on your page, don't put a review markup. If you're not selling a product on that page, don't put product. If there aren't any events, don't put an events markup. You're summarizing what the topic is of the pages. Okay? And I know it's very tempting to try to do different kinds of markups because they look nice in search results, but don't do that. The algorithm might reject it, and if not, and we've seen this, we might take manual action and actually disable all rich snippets on your site if we see flagrant abuse of this. Okay? We can disable, and I've seen some sites being disabled like that. Misleading, it's this other side of the coin. Some people say, I have a, bazillion reviews and they're all 5 stars, but then you go look at the reviews and they're all they average to 1.2 or something. Then don't do that, okay? Again, we want the best experience for our searchers. You're summarizing, you're helping us summarize the contents of your page, and we'd like to help show it, and we'll show if there is something misleading, we won't like that. The other one is that different rich snippets have various users guidelines. Each one, they're listed in the Help Center, so I'm not going to go through them now. But depending on which one you implement, you'll find that there are some technical issues and some policy issues that are listed that are specific just for that rich snippet type. So if you do want to implement that, make sure you read those in the Help Center, and that will cover yeah, make sure that everything is covered on that front. Any questions? Yes.
Is there a bias towards big brands?
No.
And authors?
No.
So, for example, some big brands don't even have an author's markup, yet they are still on the search results. The snippets are there.
Well, okay, so authorship is different. If they have marked up authorship, yeah, and remember, some of them now, as of a few weeks ago, you don't need the rel equals author link on the page itself. You can just do it by email on the Google Plus page. Okay, so I can't remember which one. There was a fairly high-profile one, but it's
Guardian is a good example, I think.
I don't know about the Guardian, but the other one. But basically, the way it works is that, suppose the Guardian is the example, right? If you have an email at guardian.co.uk, yeah, you can verify that in your Google Plus page, and then if you use the same name on an author's, on the author of the article on the guardian.co.uk website, because the domains match, the email's domain and the site's domain match, then you verified authorship that way. Okay? So you might be looking and you say, oh, there might be a bias, but actually look a bit deeper and you'll see that they verified it in the new way that they've been doing. Okay? So we're trying to help people like that, just to make it easier. Any other questions? Wow. Should we do that later or not? Okay, let's do that later, yeah. Sorry.
Because you're afraid of my questions.
No, because there was only 4 hands popped up. So, another thing I want to bring up, and you guys have a lot of structured data, so don't just think about rich snippets data that we're talking about now. Think about other things. So, Google Places, there was a talk about this earlier today, 3 talks about it. So if you go to places, your name, your business name, your address, your phone numbers, opening hours, these are all different kinds of structured data, yeah? And we don't know that much right now about lots of things. I mean, so, think about giving that data to us and see what we can do. One example really that people keep telling me, is like, imagine somebody searches for pizza at 2 in the morning, yeah? You're closed, everybody's closed, but we know that this shop is open. Wouldn't it be great to say that, show that as a search result? Because, we've searched the user query. You don't have to go and look for everybody who's closed. Think about it that way. Think about, what kind of data can you share with us? There are different kinds of feeds, like videos. They have, their own metadata that's attached to each video. Products. Yeah, we've talked a lot about schema.org. Schema.org has a huge number of markup schemas that we use. Not all of them are supported right now for rich snippets or anything, but keep an eye on our blogs, you'll see things. If you see something that might be relevant to your website now, maybe start thinking about implementing it. It's not urgent to implement it now, but in the future if you're doing something. And we've talked about Google Plus pages for publishers because that's, again, another kind of structure, it's a relationship. That's it from me. Thank you very much.